that into what you do, because it's a lot of work. And if there are ways in which technology can ease the burden of what you do, we must make sure that part of what is coming to Parliament, the resources that are coming to Parliament, must be fairly, I don't need to tell you about this. And with regards to social media, the Parliament of Ghana, for example, has live streaming on YouTube. We have on Facebook, and there's reporting on what used to be Twitter, I believe X now, and on various websites as well. And you would be amazed at how involved people are in following what's happening live with what's happening on the floor of Parliament. Not all of our sessions are recorded live because of the committee work that we do. Some of the work that we do at committee and some of what you do at committee level will never be known, except for the fact that we who are there have to celebrate you. Indeed, the use of social media has created various challenges, not just for Parliament as an institution, but for members of Parliament, and where you have various people with control over social media who, instead of perhaps in reporting the full context of a particular session or something that occurs on the floor, record sound bites which may be even out of context, which may result in the improper reporting of what has happened on the floor, which will then be used with whatever form of propaganda or attacks on members of Parliament or staff of Parliament or on governments, for example. And that is why the role of the Hansard department cannot be underestimated, cannot be ignored, because what you do does not have partisan colors. What you do is not for the majority or the minority. What you do is for the Parliament of Ghana and for the people of Ghana. And in your various jurisdictions, it's for your various houses of legislature as well as your people. And so when we have this competing floor of technology with what the Hansard department does, I see it more as an opportunity for us to have a collaboration where you have this live reporting that you're doing, but we must be able to provide perhaps digitalized versions of what has happened on the floor. And we do have those, but then when you have the search engines, how do we do it in such a way that one is able to search right down to the minute detail of who said what? Because that's what really makes that difference between what we're doing in terms of our Hansard department and archivists who know where to find what versus the public who may not necessarily know how to search for what you have in your various documents in your various houses of legislature. The risk of misrepresentation, misreporting is high. And the problem with social media is the speed with which bad news can be reported, the speed with which disinformation can be actually spread. And therefore, there is an increased pressure on you as members of the Hansard department to make sure that what you're reporting accurately, what you're reporting, you're doing so timelessly, so that even within a 24-hour period, for example, of some information going out into social media, out of context, misquoting, misrepresenting, we're easily able to go back to the reports that you have presented to be able to put the record straight. Because now, with the speed at which information is disseminated, a whole reputation built on a lifetime can be destroyed in seconds. And if you don't have the information at your fingertips to be able to counter that, you literally have lost that battle in terms of the media war on the internet. The accuracy with which reports are made on the floor is, I believe, part of the reason why you have more than one person recording at any given time. And this is to make sure that if I heard one thing and you heard it differently, then we can see where the issue is. In addition to the fact that you have the audio recordings, which you take note of. All of these come together to make sure that it is not just based on what somebody hears. And that's why even in a court of law, I'm not a lawyer, I hope to be corrected if I'm wrong, you can't just use eyewitness and hearsay as the basis on which to convict. You have to have more proof than that. And that is where you come in. Your documents serve as academic records. Your documents are archives that we dip into when we want to know what actually happened, not what they say happened, not what one party says happened, not who was in power says happened, but what actually happened. And this is something that is a guide for generations to come, and that cannot be replaced. And so as we spend time here, and I do hope, you are in my constituency, by the way, and we do have the Arts Center. I hope you will take time out to actually see some of the beautiful things that we have here represented in this constituency. But as we spend time here and we get to know each other, I would hope that there'd be some peer-to-peer exchange of ideas, and of course, mistakes that and challenges that you've made in your various jurisdictions, and how we can perhaps avoid some of those mistakes across board, how we can use our learning experiences to support other parliaments, other houses of legislature, and how perhaps we can work together with members of parliament to ensure that there's a clear understanding of what it is you do. I'm not quite sure that all members across board fully appreciate the amount of work that goes into recording every single thing that happens on the floor. And I would hope that the Hansard department will take advantage of social media to actually propagate the work that you do, to make sure that your records are out there. Because the best way of keeping information safe is making it widely and freely available. And so I would hope that at the end of all of this, there would be an easier way in which, if I'm here in Ghana, I'm looking for information on what happened in Lesotho or what happened in Kenya, I can easily go online, find out what has happened without having to go through my Hansard department that will then reach out to your Hansard department. Because the minute we start creating these silos of academia and information and archives, what it does, we don't spend too much time going through physical archives, will lose the ability to actually have easy access. And if we want our population, which is quite youthful, to understand what we do and not simply buy into the political rhetoric that we hear so much of, then we must make these archives freely available to them. How do we make it interesting? How do we chunk it up into bits of information that are easily accessible, that are not so overwhelming in volume that it becomes difficult to make use of the information that you have so painstakingly put together? Because your information must not only be reserved for those who are doing academic research. Now, if you can, next slide, please. Sorry, my PA is falling behind. I guess we're not up to speed yet. Now, as I'd mentioned as well, as a member of parliament personally, I have actually made use of the Hansard department's notes, the records from the department, to be able to actually put out on social media some of the things that I have actually done on the floor of parliament, especially coming up to elections. You know, as you may probably know, coming up to elections is when people start asking, well, what did you do about this? And what did you do about that? And what questions did you ask about the flooding that happened, or about the fires that occurred, about the destruction of equipment and all of that? And some of these have only been made possible because the Hansard department has those records. Because there have been times when I couldn't even remember the specific times when I had made a statement on specific issues relating to my constituents. But for the records that the Hansard actually put together, I would not have been able to present to my constituents the record of work that I had done on the floor of parliament and at the committee level. And so being able to access the information that you have as the Hansard department and being able to turn it out on social media is so important. However, when there isn't a smooth interface where getting the access to information in the records is not easily transferred onto social media, it then becomes another job altogether, just trying to transcribe and put it in a friendly format that people can read as well. And that's one of the challenges that I can speak of personally as a member of parliament, trying to create a smooth transition from the records that we have to what makes it user-friendly on social media. And so yet again, I think not knowing the details of the specific equipment you need, if that subject or that topic of conversation has not arisen, I would humbly ask that you have that discussion on what kind of technology do you need so that there is a smooth flow of information from your archives, from your records department to social media, so that when media houses are reporting, their reportage must be accurate. They should not have an excuse of saying they cannot get the correct information and that's why they reported what they did. The ease with which people can get information that you have recorded is what improves the accuracy of reporting on social media and in other forms of media. So ultimately, I think that one of the things that we have to do is to find a very nice nexus between your method of recording information and how we convey that onto social media for ease of reporting, for ease of sharing of information. You know what is wrong with your departments, and I think this is a perfect opportunity to have those discussions. But I would also appeal that when you do have those discussions, let's have copies of the report so that we can report on these on the plenary, so that we can debate on these challenges that you face, so that when the budgets come before our committees, we can put in a word strongly in favor of the Hansard department. And I think that if we can do that, then we give a voice to you, because you are the ones who keep everything. And we have to make sure that there is that reciprocal relationship where we on the floor of Parliament who have a voice to speak on the floor can do so on your behalf. And then finally, the capacity building of members of Parliament. If the Hansard department across the continent perhaps could look at how you engage members of Parliament in understanding what you do. Because like I said, had it not been my daughter actually doing a short internship with the Hansard department, I would not have become aware of the extent of painstaking work that you do, nor would I have been aware of the challenges that you face. And not because I didn't care, but there is only so much information that one can deal with at any given time. And so if something doesn't come up on your radar, it does not become an issue for you to be able to advocate on. And so please, wherever you are coming from, whatever jurisdiction you're in, make it a point to have advocates on the floor. And the only way to do that is to empower people with knowledge. Every member of Parliament should really fully understand what it is that you do, so that we collectively can work towards making your department better. Because if you have a better department working timelessly, accurately reporting, and abreast with the times and in sync with technology, we can certainly ensure that not only do we have the hard copies of what has been recorded in our various legislative houses, not only do we have the various digital copies that you have, but then we can have a database across the continent where one can make reference to what has been said in various parliaments, in various houses of representatives across the continent. And so this is an opportunity to marry the technology that is out there with the knowledge and the skills that you have in order to have a synergistic impact, not just in this country, not just across the Parliament, the Commonwealth on the continent, but across the world, because we have a huge database from which we can learn, from which we can, respectively in our various countries, learn from each other, see what are the best practices, and see how we can, as members of Parliament in our various jurisdictions, learn from what has happened in other jurisdictions to make things better, so that this dream that we have of this continent being better, to make sure that the interconnectivity that we seek across our various jurisdictions is not just one that happens when we meet physically, but one that we can have virtually across millions of miles, across various jurisdictions, across various generations. And so I would like to thank you very much. And I would hope that at the end of this, and again, I would reiterate that you would share reports with your various houses of legislature, find your advocates and let them speak to the reports so that your various parliaments can support what you do. I would like to say a thank you, big thank you again, and welcome to Ghana. I hope you enjoy the rest of your stay, and good luck. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much, Honorable. That was a very wonderful presentation. And as she concluded with us, the takeaway from her presentation is that you should find your advocates. And your advocates should be members of parliament. She was the first member of parliament to have ever made a statement about the Hansard. And it was more of advocating for support for Hansard, so that we can have an up-to-date Hansard. And I believe at the time she was making that statement, we had some of our Hansards that were outstanding for close to 3 months. But as we speak today, the last date of the Hansard has been published. So we don't have any arrears as of now. She is also advising us that we should find appropriate means of indexing, because it's very important. If you want to find your advocates, at least you should let your advocates understand what you are doing. And your advocates should understand that you are relevant to whatever work they are doing in Parliament. And so they should be able to search for whatever information they are looking for. And it should not just be the text of it, but we should also now be looking at audio and video indexing. So that, as she said, in these days of social media, they can just cut a certain portion of your contribution on the floor just to ridicule you or to paint a bad picture about you. But if it's easy for a member of parliament to go through the Hansard and then to be able to pick the appropriate one and then put it all out there, at least the context will come out, and it will be good for the member and then for the integrity of the information that you are storing. So I believe, and Honorable, what we are doing in our parliament is that we are trying to collaborate with ICT, Hansard, and then broadcasting to see to what extent we can find appropriate software for indexing, such that we can be able to, and it's not just indexing of the text, but indexing of the audio and then the video. On that note, this was a lively presentation. I'm sure there are several questions and contributions, which I believe, Honorable, I know she's busy, but she will spare some few minutes to take some questions from our delegates. So the floor is open. Yes, I do. The floor is open for all delegates, including the Ghanaian delegates. Yes. The mic is behind, so you can just use your country flag. Yes. Adam.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator and Honorable Presenter. We are grateful that you've been able to make time to come to deliver this paper to us. We are extremely grateful. As my boss recounted, following your presentation, in fact, it was a surprise to most of us in the department. So there was some few minutes to that day that our late boss said we should try and be in the channel because we were making a statement. And then those who are around were able to get to the chamber, and we're actually very grateful for the presentation. We have not formally made you our advocate, but I think you are the de facto champion and advocate for the Hansard department. And we appreciate that. We appreciate that. We are really, really, really grateful. We will try at the end of this conference to put up a report, and then we'll make it available for you to look at. We'll highlight some of the challenges and innovations that we'll try to come up, to bring about, so that you can advocate for us. As Mr. Speaker rightly said in this morning, per Order 48 of the Standard Orders, it has to produce in an order prescribed by Mr. Speaker. So I'm sure there is a way we want to do it, and maybe you will help us in whispering to him. That will enable us, because we are looking at a situation where within 2 hours after the House finishes sitting, we should have the Hansard. Now we are struggling with 3-5 hours, which is not the best. But colleagues here will bear me. In Ghana, our MPs sit till they are tired. It is unlike Kenya, where they have 2:30 to 6:30. Ours, they sit till they are tired. So they can sit from 2 p.m. to the following day. And we don't have any place going. We just have to sit there and be recording. So, and Parliament of Ghana is one of the few parliaments that they approve the Hansard on the floor. Colleagues are here. Which parliament do they approve the Hansard on the floor? Please raise your hand. Where? Nigeria? Yeah. Okay. And which other place? Yeah. They approve the Hansard on the floor of Parliament. Yeah. So, apart from Nigeria, the rest, we have about 15 countries here. Yeah. Okay, Nigeria and Ghana. Yeah. Nigeria and Ghana. Yeah. And we are not against the approval, but in terms of the manner of approval. You have staff a team of dedicated professionals working, and then a member of parliament gets up, and I don't want to see it because we are live on we are live. The comments alone that day can put staff off. We don't have any problem. We are humans. When we make a mistake, we can draw our attention to it. And surprisingly, in the Hansard, after the content page, there is a text there that says that if you see any error, grammatical error, bring it to the attention of the editor of debates. Unless it is a matter of substance that you can correct on the floor. For instance, in your debate, if you mention $10 million, and Hansard put 100 million, that is not grammar, that is of substance. But members get up to correct, even they correct titles, whether it's Miss or Mrs. They correct a whole lot of things, including village names of their constituencies, which are not on the map. But we are forced, we take it, as if Hansard, we don't know anything. Certainly we know the major cities, towns in Ghana, but we cannot know the settler communities, those small places that can be spelled anyhow. We cannot have those names. There are instances where we even pass notes to members of parliament to spell the name of the village for us. Some will not respond. Some will respond, and then the same text will come out, and he will correct the one he himself wrote. And because we are back there, we cannot respond. We cannot say anything. But we appreciate we are there because of Parliament. We appreciate the debates. We will continue to do our work, and then we only pray that the feedback that we get from members of Parliament are positive ones, so that we can take them on board and then change our way. As the Deputy Clerk mentioned, as at Friday, 1st August, when Parliament had the last sitting, the 43rd sitting, that same day the Hansard was produced. The Hansard was produced that same day. In addition to all the other 42, not that we skipped to produce it. So as at Friday, 1st August, when the House closed, there was also outstanding Hansard to be produced. We don't have any outstanding Hansard to be produced. And all these two main things, your advocacy and the motivation from the office, my Deputy Clerk will finish up. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Sorry, this is an unofficial Hansard. And the Hansard, when you are recording it, you have to indicate the name of the person contributing. So I would urge all those who are going to ask a question or who are going to make a comment to kindly indicate their names and then the country they are coming from, so that they will have the record.
Thank you so much. It was very heartwarming listening to the patron saint of Hansard make her remarks, Honorable Zeneta Ajeman. It's very heartwarming to hear a politician very grounded on the challenges and opportunities that exist, and hearing you amplify the work of Hansard was really something very good for us. I'm requesting that hopefully I can have excerpts of this short video that I can also share with colleagues back at home, members of parliament and all, because it would be good for, within Africa and beyond to highlight this important work that we do. Mine is a comment on how we can further amplify the work of Hansard. I know that in some jurisdictions, the recording of plenary is sometimes done in the department of maybe ICT, and then transcription and editing is happening in another department, and then you have the communications department that is mandated with interfacing with the public. So I would like to urge all of us in our various jurisdictions to have a synergy such that, because Hansard in itself cannot communicate direct with the public, you will have to use a channel or a social media platform which probably is in the control of the communications department. So it's important that our relations are very healthy with these departments, such that the work, the very important work done in the Hansard department is amplified by colleagues in the communications department using ICT tools or modern communication software. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, Moses Boalatum, Parliament of Uganda.
Any comment? Okay. I'll invite our, sorry, from Nigeria.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. My name is Godwin Adrisu. I'm from the National Assembly of Nigeria. Doctor, thank you for being an advocate for the Hazard Department of the Parliament of Ghana. You're doing a good job. I want to ask, since the hazard of the Parliament of Ghana is being considered on the floor, is it circulated through the hard copies, or you are doing e-circulation to the members? Because Madam is going to work for you, but there should be, the product must be seen on the table of the parliamentarians. And then the point that was made by the speaker in the morning, I really don't know whether doctor can speak to it or the head of editor debate of the Parliament of Ghana. To the extent that the rules of your parliament gives power to the speaker to, I don't want to use the word moderate, but to do approval as per what should be published. I want to know a little inward into it. Because in our own parliament, the National Assembly of Nigeria, the Senate President and the Speaker of the House does not have such power. But if there is any substantial amendment, they come through a substantive motion on the floor. And if approved by the House, fine. Be it deletion, addition, it has to be debated. But where a speaker will be having power to so do It's what I don't understand. Thank you so much.
It's not. No, I think it's the way the speaker said it. Any other would respond to that? Otherwise, I would. Okay.
Very much, Program Director. I would also like to express a word of thanks to the doctor who made the presentation. The presentation is really enlightening in a number of ways. My name is Mteteleli Mangunyana. I come from Eastern Cape Legislature of South Africa. My comment or question relates to the advocacy that the presenter is talking about. In our jurisdictions, we do have branches of CWP. I would like to check whether is there any desk where we can foster this collaboration between our Hansard units, because as you correctly said, Hansard in most of the time is not given attention it deserves. I just want to check whether is there any desk at CWP where we can also foster those relationships so that we can popularize or we can make sure that at least Hansard is known by our members and also by the general community. Thank you so much.
I used to work with them, so hello. Okay. Our presenter will answer some.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just have a quick one. I'm Rosemary from Uganda. I have two concerns. The first one is about the practice in Ghana, where you approve the Hansard on the floor. I wonder how you do it when the people concerned, the staff, are not there. I remember we had a scenario some years back. I've worked in the Hansard for more than 20 years, where a member wanted to raise the issue concerning the Hansard on the floor. And the speaker defended us by saying, since the Hansard is not on the floor, they cannot defend themselves. So I advise that can be handled administratively. So if I had powers, I would propose that the head of Hansard is allowed to sit in the chamber to be able, so that one is handled in a very fair way. That is my proposal. The second one concerns the challenges of the Hansard and the social media. I'm professionally a communicator, a student of mass communication. If we're talking about the media, yes, the media can have time to peruse through the Hansard, but the social media belongs to a different class of people. These are people who have an intention. If somebody wants to trade distortion, if however much the information is available, they will not look at it. So the social media, we may not have so much as Hansard, we may not have a solution to them, because those are the Gen Zs in Kenya. Yeah? We call them the Gen Z in Kenya. Those are the special class. They are looking for your head, however much the information is there, will get to you. And they'll treat the information according to their taste. That's my submission. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think maybe I'll start with where you ended off. I think that is what exactly I was hoping to put across in terms of how does the Hansard make it accessible, so that if you have the information available and now someone chooses to take a clip out of context, you can then take them on. But if you don't have the information out there that's easily accessible, it makes it difficult to then, whether it's legal action, whether it's for somebody to retract what they have put out there, if it's not easy enough for them to have access to the information, it becomes more difficult for you to take them on for why they haven't recorded accurately what you have. And that is exactly the issue, because different jurisdictions have different regulations in place on how people can behave on social media and what they can put out on social media. So if we close the gap in terms of information access, then you can put greater responsibility on people for not putting accurately what is there. The more obscure the information is, the more people can justify putting wrong information out there. And I think that's exactly what I was trying to emphasize on with regards to the easy accessibility, because I know exactly what you're referring to in terms of the, I suppose, social media and online behavior has become a gray area for most jurisdictions. You know, where do you draw the line? And what's legal? Where is it an infringement of somebody else's rights? If we are not able to provide more information, that gray area just becomes too wide, and it becomes more difficult to justify why you can take an action against somebody putting information out of context on social media. So I think that is one of the issues that concerns me about that nexus between the archives, the records, and what is put out there in little bite-sized pieces of information. And then I think with regards to the fact that you don't have a voice on the floor, I think we've had an instance in the Parliament of Ghana at plenary where there was a member of parliament made a comment regarding a member of the parliamentary service staff, and the speaker had to rule in favor of the staff to say that the person can't defend him or herself on the floor, and so it's unfair to actually take that person on. And so that particular person was ruled out of order. And if I'm not mistaken, whatever it was that was said was asked to be removed from the record. So that is one of the things that happens. And I suppose one has to be very careful with such things because it depends on who is presiding over the House. So unless we have clarity in our, for example, in our standing orders that say that we cannot speak to specific issues when the person cannot make a response, then it becomes down to the discretion of who is presiding. And the system hopes, there's always the hope that whoever is presiding will be fair enough to ensure that if there's someone who cannot defend themselves, they have an opportunity to not be taken on in that setting. Sometimes what happens is you may have a member either on the opposite side or maybe even on the same side who may stand up in defense of whoever doesn't have a voice on the floor to say that we cannot continue that debate on the floor because the person can't defend themselves. It has happened in different forms, but I think that when you create a gray area of what you can and cannot do, it then allows for people who don't have a voice to be taken on without having an opportunity to defend themselves. And I think it comes down again to awareness creation. The more aware members are of what you do, of your challenges, the less likely they are to take the Hansard department on. Because I remember before I had the opportunity to understand some of the challenges of the Hansard department, I was one of those who just couldn't understand why we had such a backlog. And it was one of my major complaints. I was always complaining. Honestly, I was the chief complainant, I have to be honest, or one of them anyway. But the minute I understood that it was beyond the control of the staff of the Hansard department, that was what pushed me to make that statement, because I realized that there was no point complaining if we weren't going to make sure that we were fixing the problem. You know, and I think one of the issues is once we provide the equipment you need and once you have the motivation, it also encourages you and gives you the right attitude to keep doing your work with excellence. I think with regards to whether the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association has a Hansard department or a desk, a desk. I'm not sure whether there is one, but if there isn't, this is absolutely a brilliant idea, because what it does is it creates this network and this almost like an information hub where members can have access to. But I think that even when you have a desk that is for the Hansard department, if you don't have that awareness creation, the desk remains the desk and nothing changes. So you really need to push hard. Let someone, you know, it's an institution with human beings, and staff will have friends amongst members of parliament. And if you have a friendship with a member of parliament, speak to them about it. Maybe they won't make that statement, but they may speak to somebody else who would be willing to make the statement. There is that human aspect of how do we help one another in an institution that's made up of people. And so it's also about building relationships. You know, there is a tendency to just stick with the writing and recording and, you know, all of that work that you do. But I think that if we can build those human relations amongst the various members of parliament, representatives, and yourselves, then you start creating that awareness. But aside from that, I think we really officially need to establish that kind of a situation where members of parliament are made to fully appreciate what you do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable. Just to add to the issue raised by our colleague from Nigeria, I think what the speaker talked about and the reference to our standing orders had to do with the form in which the Hansard is to be kept. It's not that something that is said, the speaker can afterwards call for a certain portion to be expunged. Even if he has to do that, it has to be on the floor of the House. The corrections are in respect of members raising them on the floor of the House. And if you recall, this morning at the opening session, almost all the leaders, the minority leader, the majority leader, and the speaker made mention of the fact that sometimes our Hansard serve as a record as far as tendering of evidence in court is concerned. So you need to have something that the House, I know it's, as Adam said, it appears it's only in our parliament and the Parliament of Nigeria that the Hansard is corrected on the floor of the House. It has its positives and it has its negatives. Notwithstanding the challenges they have and sometimes the way members come about when they are making the corrections, I think it's a better way of us going, that at the end of the day, the final official document that is coming out is something that is owned by the House. So that you don't have a situation where probably a member can come out and then accuse that this was what I said, but then it was expunged from the record by the editor of debates or anything. But at the end of the day, what is churned out is something that the House can say that this is our document, this is what was said on the floor of the House. And once that is tendered in evidence, it's something that we can all testify to. So it's not something that the speaker can, on his own motion, just direct that something should be expunged. But we have rules of debates, and as our presenter said, you cannot, for instance, malign somebody who is not present on the floor of the House, even if the person is a member. Our rules of debate does not permit that, and therefore, if you say certain things that are disparaging of a member or somebody within the community, the speaker has a right to say that you should withdraw that. If you refuse to withdraw, then the speaker can order that that portion of the information should be expunged from the Hansard. And that will be done on the floor of the House at the clear space of honorable members of parliament. So it's not something that is done outside of the chamber. With regards to CPA matters, I believe CHEA is an organ of the CPA, if I understand the arrangement, because I'm also part of SOCAT, which is an organ in respect of officers of at the table, Society of Clerks at the table. And therefore, if you need something like that, I believe it's something within CHEA who should advocate for us to have it within CWP. Yeah, we have a desk officer, yes. So it's something that we can look at, yes. Yes, yeah, we have, initially we're doing hard copies, but currently what we do is that we do soft. But we have a few of them who were born before computer, so they still require the hard copies. So what we do is that we have a 276 member parliament. Currently what we do is that we produce just 50 copies. We send it to them by their official email. We publish it on our website. And if you had the opportunity of seeing what we have in our chamber, we have some our work tables. We have the system unit there, and therefore every morning the Hansard that is to be corrected is normally uploaded on their console. So once you sit in the chamber, you can actually go and review the Hansard before it is adopted. So these are the three ways. We publish it on our website, we publish it, we send soft copies to members, and then we have it on the console. But we have few copies. And when it's adopted, we also have some that we'll send to our library and other places. We only do about 50 copies for the members who specifically demand that they want hard copies. But we don't try to encourage it. We tell them that if you want that, then go and print it, using your own resources to print it. But we try to just have a few copies available. Any other? Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. We are most grateful.
I think we can bring this session to a close. As I indicated, our resource person, these are not normal times for us. At the time she accepted to be a resource person, she had no idea of some of the things that we are seeing and the calamity that befell us since last week. So she's actually trying, and I know very well that some of them, she was very close to some of the members who unfortunately were part of this disaster, but she still found time to be with us. So Honor, we are most grateful. What I'll also add is that she's not only an advocate for Hansard, but matters relating to the environment, which affects all of us. So once again, Honorable, thank you very much. So on that note, Honorable, I want to say a big thank you, and I'm sure anytime we need your services, you will come to assist us. Thank you.
So this brings us to the end of the session. We would kindly clap as we see our chair and presenter off stage. Thank you. Meeting. Yes. So, ladies and gentlemen, our Honorable MP would take leave of us. So, we are grateful once again, Honorable Dr. Zaneto Ajiman Rawlins. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the third session, and this is a delegates meeting, so it will not be streamed live. It's a delegates meeting, so the media is hereby notified. It's a delegates meeting, and we would have the privilege of having the chair from Malawi. So